All right, folks. Well, I'm going to bring up Adam and some of the other people that are here because he said he wanted to be the topic of conversation. There's some other topics of conversation as well. But what Adam does not know is that I'm actually here auditioning some people because I'm at the Hayti Heritage Center. It's a cultural arts center here in Durham. And I figured that when Adam gets elected, he's going to need to have some entertainment for his inauguration. So we've got a couple of people that are performing. They're actually going to be doing the music of Vivaldi and Taylor Swift. And I know he's got a crush on Taylor Swift and all along those lines. So I'm thinking that we'll need to find out if they can play the music, play it successfully, and all along those lines. There are some other folks because it's Kim knows I'm also part of the Road to the Apollo, what we now call the Road to New York. So I can find all kinds of entertainment for Adam as he is inaugurated the future president in 2028 and all along those lines. So I just want to let you know, Adam, that this is one of my responsibilities is to find you good entertainment and all along those lines. Because when you get inaugurated, you've got to have parties, you got to have inauguration events, you've got to have concerts, you got to have all these things. I know this because I went to the first Obama inauguration and I saw a number of people that were in that lane and doing all kinds of things in that space, whether it was private parties or whether it was the parties on the White House lawn or a number of other things that were going on. So I knew that I needed to find good entertainment for you. So that's why I've got you here and I'm doing a good job. Matter of fact, I'm here to go talk to my boss and find out if we can find some other entertainment in that space. So I'm going to bring the other folks up and y'all can have a conversation and I'm going to go meet with him about finding you some great entertainment. But we do have the entertainment and I've got some questions I'm going to ask y'all when I come back. But we've got the president of this network, Kim Calhoun, on here as well. And what do you think, Kim? Should I find some good entertainment for him and all along those lines? And we've got Jim Eade out of California and all in that space. And of course, we've got Rick Rosner also representing the left coast, as some people call it. And we've got Sasha Starr representing Canada. So like I said, a lot of things are going on. I'm trying to find you some entertainment. I want to bounce off for a second, but then I'll be back. But tell me if you like this idea and I'll come back with some questions. And I know it's all about you. So I'm going to let you take the lead for a minute and then I'll come back with those questions.
You're up, Adam.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the World Edition's World Politics TV show. Let's get this party started, seeing how Mark's all about the parties. And so, Adam, what do you think about the current situations of what's going on with Trump right now?
Oh, I think it's all good news for Trump. We're less than a year away from the second Trump administration. We're going to see inflation go down. We're going to see a secure border. We're going to see unemployment rates for African Americans and Hispanics go down. We're going to make sure that we're not in needless foreign wars. We're going to make sure the economy is great. Corporate taxes are lowered. Individual taxes are lowered. Everything that Trump did in his first term, you're going to see in the second term so that we can relieve the damage that has been done by Joe Biden.
The October inflation numbers came out, and they're down to 3.2 year over year.
Still way too high.
What?
Still way too high.
Well,
So you.
But the stock market went crazy today, up by 2% across most of the indices, because the dropping inflation rate means that the chance that the Fed raises the prime rate another went to 0%. That what the raising of the interest rates looks like it's been working. And
yeah, it's funny. I don't think Californians should be allowed to vote because it's such a waste of electoral votes. Every single election, the Republicans lose a tremendous amount of electoral votes because California robotically votes Democrat, despite all the damage that its state has undergone. I don't think California should be allowed to vote.
We haven't always voted. We elected Reagan.
Ronald Reagan was our governor. Yes.
I know. What happened since then to all of you?
Well,
Okay.
your
By the way,
Republican policies are unpopular. Republicans have won the popular vote for the presidency just once since 1992. You guys need better politicians, and you need more popular policies.
I
I think
I
I
agree
think the
with
average
that.
American would say that the policies under Trump are better than Biden. So I'm looking forward to another 4 years where we make America even greater again.
More
But, you know,
Americans were
according to
unemployed.
Trump, go ahead.
More Americans in 2020 were unemployed under COVID and under Trump than at any other time ever, before or since.
That was because of COVID, not Trump.
Yeah, but Trump
COVID
was
was part.
in
But
charge
Trump
of
is the
America's
leader.
COVID response.
Oh.
I remember Trump saying that we only had 15 people with COVID and it was going to go down to nothing. It was going to go away. One of many of Trump's
Trump was our leader, and he led us to a death march. And
No, Anthony
I'm
Fauci
not
led
going to
us
get
to a
into the
death
number
march.
counts. That's our leader led us to a death march. But according to Trump himself, presidents always have to come in and clean up the previous president's mess. Trump said this himself.
Well, if
And
Trump
so,
said it,
I mean,
then I
he
don't
had to
believe
come
it.
in and clean up behind somebody, and now somebody had to come and clean up behind him. No matter what, somebody leaves a mess.
Well,
Always.
Kim, I want to say that Mark mentioned that Adam had a crush on Taylor Swift, and there was a lot of Taylor Swift and Vivaldi being played that night. And, I would have to say I had a crush on Vivaldi, and Sasha will appreciate this. Four Seasons was the first classical music that I ever understood. So shout out to Vivaldi as well as Taylor Swift there.
I'm cheering for her current relationship, that it leads to offspring, because for some I love people having huge kids. Like, I like seeing how big Barron Trump is going to be. He's like 6'8", I think still growing. But if Taylor Swift, who's 5'11", had kids with Travis Kelce, who's 6'5",
Wow.
they would have huge, probably very talented kids.
Well, I want to clarify for the record. I do not have a crush on Taylor Swift. I have a crush on Monica
Misinformation?
Lewinsky. I have a crush on Monica Lewinsky.
Wow.
She's turned into a lovely person.
Oh, wasn't
she
that
probably always was?
Wasn't there a Democratic president who knew Monica Lewinsky? Would that be Bill Clinton in the Oval Office? Okay.
Wasn't
Okay,
he the
okay,
one
I
that say
blame-
it wasn't sex?
I blame the entire
Just
21st
tragic.
century on Bill Clinton and his inability to just masturbate to the internet like everybody else. I
Like
know what
everybody else.
presidents
How
tell them.
inappropriate.
Hey,
I'm
hey,
sorry.
Oh my goodness. Fucking inappropriate.
I
Hold on
know
a
his
second.
Didn't Trump
thinking.
get convicted?
no, hold on a second. I got a question because I do have a very important question for Adam, because apparently it is something that we have to have in our presidents these days and everything. So, Adam, I need to know, do you play an instrument? Because you mentioned Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton played the saxophone. There have been enough other folks that have either played or done other things within the entertainment. I mean, Ronald Reagan was an actor. So do you have any performance skills? Because apparently this is a prerequisite to be in president these days. So I need to know whether you have any performance skills.
He doesn't play chess.
Well, I did go to acting school, and I will say that my uncle was the drummer for the Four Seasons in Frankie Valli from 1965 to 1970. So I will live vicariously through him and ride that along with my policies all the way to the White House.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a good
How tall
answer.
are you, Adam?
got-
Tallness is a prerequisite.
Oh yeah, how tall, Adam? Tell me the facts. No shoelifts.
Just give me one opportunity to campaign and to meet the American people, and I will win all 50 states, including the lost souls of California.
I
So
have
maybe
had,
There
you're
you
dodging
go.
the height question. You've got
You
good
dodged it.
hair. Hair is important for a candidate.
Yeah, you have really nice hair.
oh,
As,
good.
and you've asked my height. My height is 5'8" tall.
All right,
That's
so
not too short.
you're gonna need better
That's Harry Truman
lifts
height.
than Ron DeSantis. Is
What's
using.
really tragic about this discussion is how everyone's looking to discriminate against me on some characteristic, particularly an inherited characteristic like height. I find that appalling. That's because you guys can't talk about the policies of Trump that were better than Biden and that are going to lead to a greater America in
Let's talk
2024.
about policies that are better than what
Bill
Trump
Clinton said,
would
"Don't
do,
stop
because
thinking about tomorrow."
Hey, I got to
Trump
make a
doesn't
correction.
talk policies. He
I got to
doesn't
make a
talk
correction on the inflation comment the dumbass genius made. It's not coming down because the interest rates were affected in driving inflation down. The raising of the rates was mistaken because what drove inflation in this case was the COVID pandemic, and we had a supply chain disruption. So the entire global economic system was disrupted. So products couldn't get to where consumers wanted them, and prices went up. Scarcity
More than
goes,
that,
prices up.
corporations.
I'm still talking, and because the distribution system has been repaired, prices are stabilizing now. So there's no longer an increase in inflation. But corporations have learned that if customers are going to pay that kind of price for these things, they're not going to lower them. They're going to keep them right where they are. So we're not seeing a deflation, which is good because deflation can be very bad. But we're not seeing any increase in inflation. So the Fed's backing off, but the Fed had no business raising interest rates in the first place.
But the corporations learned that they could sneak in price increases under the umbrella. It's called greedflation, and corporations are making record profits. Oil companies, supermarket chains, because nobody's blaming the corp. They can get away with it. And yet, and it's not that the Fed raising it. I don't know how effective the Fed is, but people are just happy that the Fed won't raise them further as inflation drops.
So, Sasha, you might want to comment on that. The stocks went crazy today.
I think, listen, my portfolio went up 14% in the last 2 days. That's wow. I couldn't even ask for any better than that. And it will go higher tomorrow and next day and so on. Now, what I'd like to mention is that as long as the prices will stabilize, they will not go lower in the near future, but they will stabilize and they will stop go any higher. And then a normal capitalistic things like competition will fix all these problems. And very quickly, you will see that starting next year, the Fed will start to lower the rates. And this is why I see a very bright future for stock market and foreseeable future. And also it's a president's election year, so everybody wants to make inflation less feasible, whether it's right or wrong, whether it will work or not, it remains to be seen. But that's always happening in election.
What about buying bonds? Shouldn't you buy bonds now with interest?
Too late. I think you could have bought
it's way too late for that.
Months ago. Probably would be a good move. But again, with bonds, you are tied up to whatever you will lock, 5.5%, and you will live for the rest of your life with this 5.5%.
But you're right, Rick. Bonds became competitive for the first time in a long time because
that's right.
Yeah. I think you guys should be buying a ticket to Trump's inauguration because there's gonna be a lot of people there. Because when you look
as many as last time, wasn't that record breaking? No, it wasn't.
I mean, how
it was,
rude.
but it wasn't.
These rude interruptions. When you compare Biden and you compare Trump, and you look at their policies and how people were doing under Trump versus Biden, the clear winner is Trump. He's not perfect, but Biden does not have the tangible or intangible policy. Oh. Trump is going to win, and for good reason. There's a reason why he's ahead on all these polls. Okay, Trump's policies are better for the United States than Biden's, and Trump is a better candidate. They're both flawed and imperfect, but between the two, the better evil is Trump.
Hey, Adam, just really quickly, just really quickly, are we going to have a, because we put a stall on it the last time, but are we going to have a government shutdown? Because apparently the U.S. government is going to run out of money at 12:01 a.m. on Saturday if Congress fails to act this week. So is this something that folks on the panel are concerned about or not concerned about? Because apparently there is.
Sasha's the one to tell us if it's a concern.
It is concern. Obviously, the market will crash on Friday at the end of the day when there will be no deal and so on. And this is why Jim knows what I'm talking about. I don't have any stocks. Believe it or not, in my portfolio, I have no stocks. No bonds. I have options. I sold 4 puts on NVIDIA at the end of last week. They're flying through the roof. I also sold Monday morning. I looked at Boeing and looked at its swash with all foreign orders for any plane, the Dreamliner, the MAX 737, just any flights. They're busy for next 15 years, maybe even longer. So I sold puts on Boeing as well. And it's already paid. I can close both positions with very handsome profit. But I think I will keep it until they will expire worthless, and will just enjoy a full premium. Okay. Then I have. I will talk more about it tomorrow, of course.
Yeah, no, definitely talk more about it tomorrow and everything. But Adam, just really quickly, the Conservative House Freedom Caucus has announced their opposition to the bill because it's out there being proposed, because they're saying that it doesn't have enough of the deep cuts that they would like, and all along those lines. So is the Freedom Caucus have a point, and does the Freedom Caucus speak for the Republican Party or not, and all along those lines? So what is your thoughts around this Freedom Caucus? Because apparently they have announced their opposition to the bill because it lacks the spending cuts that they would like.
I have no respect for the Freedom Caucus. They are an extreme element of the Republican Party that rejects moderation and that rejects compromise. And like I said, I have no respect for them. I don't have any respect for the extreme parts of the Democratic Party either. What I'm looking for is true leaders that understand they're not always right on every issue, and that they can benefit from listening to others and reaching compromises that are good for the American people and that constitute good policy. I'd also like to take this moment to extend my support to the Jewish community. On college campuses nationwide, the anti-Semitism is so appalling, and that's a result of woke universities that have uniformly liberal faculty and a liberal agenda. So the Jewish community has my support. And most importantly, the voice of the American people is what matters. We need to be focusing on policies that benefit the average American and allow them to have upward mobility in a society that has become so elitist that it's made the American dream exist in the abstract for so many.
This is the Adam Show. But God, you have to interrupt him to get a word in edgewise.
No, Jim, it's your turn.
Okay, thanks. It's good to have an opportunity to speak about some of the nonsense that's been said. There's extremists on both sides, but only one of them has the House speakership. And so the MAGA has got, committees under their control. The extremists on the left, they don't have control of these committees. They don't have that kind of influence. But and I have no respect for the MAGA hat wearing extreme right either. But they have too much control. And what they are about, this is why I think they're un-American, is they prefer chaos to compromise. And so we are definitely facing another chaos situation. And the last time this happened, we went right up to the deadline for giving paying our bills. We've charged we've got these charges and we have to pay them. And we had our credit rating lowered as a country, which raises the cost of borrowing. So this can have catastrophic consequences. Sasha mentioned the stock market, but otherwise, other people start thinking, hey, what's going on in the United States? Maybe we shouldn't be investing in their dollar. Maybe we shouldn't be, borrowing money. And what they found during the Trump administration was he couldn't be trusted. So Biden has reestablished his trust in other countries around the world, including the NATO forces in the Ukraine and Russia conflict, and massive leadership there. And he's taken a good tone in the horrible, horrendous Israeli-Gaza conflict that's going on now. Who knows? I have no idea what the solution is there. I won't even go into it, but I do double down on the respect that Adam showed for the Jewish community. But I will say that anti-Semitic also applies to Arabs. Arabs are Semitic as well. So we have to be careful when we use words like that. And people that are expressing support for Palestinian children in the hospitals, so we see these pictures, they're heart-wrenching. I don't care what kind of child you are. If I see you in a hospital bleeding and not getting medical support, not having water, not having food, my heart goes out to you. I don't care, who you are, what country you're from, what language you speak.
Jim, I agree with you. I just want to mention, and Adam, to you as well, that it is a position of Hamas. They are not in business to supply Palestinians with food, water, or anything what they need to live. No, it's not their business. This is business of United Nations, perhaps Israel, European countries, United States, Qatar, a few other Arab countries, but not Hamas. Hamas is there to make a permanent war on Israel to make sure that the war is going in Israel every day, if not the West Bank, then in Gaza, then in on the North Golan Heights, or so on. That's their mission. If you understand that, and that's it's not that I made it up, it's in their published materials lately, after October 7th. So this is what you are dealing with. Although Hamas, its days are numbered, they're all walking dead. They're all will be gone in the next few days. There will be some, unfortunately, collateral damage here and there, but there was collateral damage. If you remember Second World War in Dresden, 200,000 killed in one night. Some collateral damage in Japan. You remember that? So it's very difficult to conduct a perfect warfare that you kill only enemies and you spare the civil population, children, and so on. It would be ideal war. If somebody could do that, it would be great. But it's very difficult to.
No, but Sasha, I guess the question, because I've definitely heard that even around the folks from Hamas, and I agree with you that that October 7th attack was very atrocious, and they definitely, even among their own folks, have said that they attacked and made that attack on Israel because they believed the Palestinian cause was slipping away and that only violence could revive it and everything. But I have said on this show and other shows that I don't think that they necessarily speak for all of the Palestinian or the Arab community and all along those lines. So definitely that's why I think that they are a terrorist organization and that they don't necessarily speak for the majority of the Muslim community.
Mark, you're right. And
One day we're all going
perhaps
to
Hitler didn't speak for all Germans. You know, Hitler spoke for himself.
No,
For himself.
no.
You know, as far as I'm concerned, you know, unfortunately, there was collateral damage in the Ukraine war too, and it shouldn't have happened. But I think we're all going to be surprised. I mean, one of the things I have learned over the years is, you know, the Palestinians, you know, their religious practice is so peaceful and uniting that they don't care if somebody converts to another religion. So in Gaza, majority of the religions that are there are Christian and the Sunni, okay, Sunni, not Shiite, but Sunni Quran is what they practice, and they don't care. But if you know, if you look at the Torah over the years, one of their practices was it's okay to kill anyone as if they're not Jewish and kill their babies too, because
Where did you get that?
especially I'm talking especially, and this is what, you know, you can go look it up. It's out there to read.
Show it
But
to me.
Palestinians do not believe in that. And Hamas, if you kind of look at all the characters at war here on the chessboard, Hamas, a lot of the leaders that organized Hamas, they actually one time were prisoners of Israel. One of them was actually a nonprofit person that was trying to help the people. But if you go back in history and read our Bibles and our history books and you believe them, then you know that it was the Jewish people who actually manipulated the minds of the mass majority to kill Jesus because he didn't follow Jewish law.
You know what, Kim? You're a
What they
comedian.
taught in
You
school.
should be the show.
No, I'm
comedy
just saying,
show.
but you're
Use the comedy
interrupting,
show. That's
Sasha.
all what you are. It's a
Sasha.
comedy show. You
Sasha.
understand that?
Sasha, you're interrupting me. And I didn't get to finish, and that's not fair. That is not my opinion. Those are facts that you can go read. Those are facts you can go read. And if you read those facts, you will see that the Palestinians have lived in peace without killing each other or anyone because they decide to convert a religion. Israel never had that practice. Now, I'm not saying all Jews are like that, and maybe they changed, you know, since the first day of the first book that they wrote. But that's not the way they practice over the years. So honestly, I think that Israel is taking advantage of the situation, and they are not playing by the rules. If a terrorist attacked their country, then they should go after the terrorists like we did. Instead, they're blowing up a lot of innocent people, doctors, teachers, children, families, Americans, Christians. They're blowing up everyone that don't deserve to be blown up. They're not going after the terrorists. That's not collateral damage. That is hate, and that is just pure bloodthirst. And my question is, who's next on Israel's hit list? After they kill all of the Palestinians because they're not Jewish, who's next? And if you look in history, in the past 10 years, Israel has done nothing but pick on, terrorize, and hit and kill the Palestinians in the past 10 years. So I honestly think Israel paid off the politicians of the U.S. to turn their heads so that they can just destroy their enemy. And I don't think it's right. Hi, Wesley.
Hey, Rick, you had
I think you have a lot of. I think, Kim, you have a lot of stuff backwards now. Hamas plays into.
That's what you read.
So
it's your turn. It's your turn.
All right. So Israel is Netanyahu is pretty much Israel's Trump, and the settlers in the West Bank are pretty much MAGAs. And yeah, they're not great in taking over the West Bank, but Hamas plays into this by hiding its people in hospitals. Hamas attacks Israel. Israel responds, almost always kills more Palestinians than Hamas killed Israelis. But for the past 50 years and more, Gaza has never had a non-corrupt government, a government that hasn't stolen from the people, stolen aid money, and is committed to obliterating Israel and driving the Jews out of Israel. And there's never been, Gaza has never had a chance to exist under non-corrupt governance. And I would like to see an occupation, not by Israel, but by some kind of, and it's probably impossible because they haven't managed to do it yet, but by some kind of like UN type agency, some kind of neutral agency, to see if Gaza cannot be terroristic if they had neutral, non-violent, non-thieving governance.
Can I say something? And I'll just take a minute. Number one, this is why I should be president, because I can bring clarity to these issues. And the first thing is this: Hamas must be destroyed, completely eradicated. They believe in the destruction of Israel, and they should be destroyed. But the Palestinian people, and my heart goes out to them for the suffering that they're enduring, Palestinian people deserve a state. And I still believe in a two-state solution. Number two, I am sickened by the anti-Jewish sentiment at campuses across this country. For example, at NYU Law School, where Raina Workman is tearing down pictures that show Israelis who were kidnapped. This is disgusting, and I want to know who admitted these morons and who's teaching these morons. Number three, that's reflective of what's happened to this country. We claim to be a diverse country, but we need to come around a set of common values that bring us together despite our differences. And we are being destroyed from the inside, not the outside. And that's the biggest threat to this country.
Hey, Adam, just really quickly.
I want to ask a question. Why are we not posting missing children in our own country? That would be nice, that people would give a hoot about people in our own country first. I'm just saying.
No, but just really quickly, Adam, just a question that I had to you on those same lines, and I'm not saying that it is right or wrong, but we had a recent person that has been put into the House Speaker, that has endorsed Mr. Trump for his presidential candidate, but he is also, many people say, an election denier, and he even kind of like pushed back on that by saying that the election was stolen when he made his endorsement of Trump. So does he have a valid claim, or does he not have a valid claim in that sense? Because when he endorsed Trump, he also did kind of like go back into the statement that the previous election, the election that got Biden into office, had been a stolen election.
The election was not stolen. Biden won the election because he won the turnout battle, especially in the Rust Belt state. And election deniers have no place whatsoever in leadership, and neither does the Republican Party. The Republican Party has not led from day one. Nobody in their party has shown any leadership or putting the American people as a priority in developing their policies. We need real leaders, and we need moderate leaders like Mitt Romney, for example, like Ted Kennedy when he was alive, who come together and compromise because they realize that politics is not about them, it's about the people.
Rick, you had a statement you wanted to make?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I want to talk about how paralyzed the House has been in the 10 months that under McCarthy and now Johnson. The House has enacted 19 pieces of legislation, which is by far the worst in history. A normal House, even a crappy House, enacts about 100 pieces of legislation a year. A more functioning House may enact as many as 400 per year. They've done 19, and some people say, well, that's good. They're not passing laws that are bad, but it's the job of the legislative branch to enact legislation for things like when Maui burns to the ground, when Israel needs aid, when things happen, the House has to be able to function to work with the Senate to pass legislation to fix things both long-term and immediate. And they are 80% down from the previous crappiest House in history.
Jim, you had a statement, and then I think you were going to yield to Sasha, and I'm perfectly fine with that.
Thank you, Mark. I wanted to double down on what Rick had said earlier. I forget the exact date that they had an election in Gaza. It was 2005, I think. In any case, Hamas won a plurality over Fatah. Fatah was crippled by corruption charges, and they were the governance then at that time. And Hamas came in, and Hamas talked a lot about how moderate they were and how good they were, and they were going to behave on the international stage. And they won like 52% or something like that. And there hasn't been an election since. Hamas has taken control of Gaza, and Hamas is dedicated to the destruction of Israel. The same people that were talking about how moderate they were going to be are now on television telling that they will not rest until all the Jews are dead. So,
and before Hamas, there was the Palestinian, there was the PLO led by Yasser Arafat, totally corrupt, totally committed to stealing a lot of money and sabotaging any kind of peace or two-state process.
Correct. That's absolutely correct. And I do think this two-state solution, we had it at our fingertips and we lost it. And I don't know if it's even feasible anymore. But that was, I think, the plan, and it could have worked in a better world. But the other claim about, universities around the country and supporting anti-Semitism, that's bunk. The anti-Jewish sentiment in college is complete bunk. So, I'd like a little banner that says that, because, people have a right to free speech. I think we all agree with that. And there are a few that are oddballs that, are on all sides on every issue. You're going to find people that are just creeps, but there is no anti-Semitic teaching in the schools. If they are teaching it, it's not becoming obvious to investigative journalists around the country because it would be reported. So that's nonsense. We should stop saying that. There are certain people that are, hiding behind the free speech, the First Amendment, that are saying things that are outrageous. There's no question about that. But we cannot indict the entire university system for that.
Well,
or a state. Just a moment for a state. And after I'm done, I'm yielding to Sasha. So, Adam, you've had your time. And I think that we have to be fair when we make these criticisms of people. And we do have to say, there are people bad on both sides. But, this has gone. It's ridiculous to say that now in the House. There's crazies on both sides. No, man, the crazies have taken over the House. And that's why we're seeing such dysfunction, such chaos. And this is an embarrassment to the rest of the world on our behalf. And we have to wake up. And it isn't going to be until these people lose elections. And they've lost a lot of elections. They haven't won, as Rick pointed out, actually the number of votes. I mean, Hillary had 3 million more votes than Trump. Because of the Electoral College, which really should be abolished, it's very anachronistic. But in any case, he won. He won fairly, and of course Biden won, and Biden won fairly. There's no question about that. And any deniers, they got rocks in their heads. Let's face it.
Can I respond to this, Mark?
No. We're moving on to Sasha, and then you.
You're
Adam.
not the producer of the show, and you don't get. I think you've had more time than I have.
Time is up for Adam. Sasha.
One second, Sasha.
So who's fascist now?
Sasha did want to respond and everything, but I definitely will get back to you, Adam. But Sasha, you had a response.
Thank you, Mark. You're really great man. Okay, I would like to say, first of all, that today in Washington, where there were about 300,000 strong Jewish demonstration against the colleges that promote anti-Semitism. One of them was Columbia University, where 100 professors, they're all left influenced people that should not teach ever, not even in the colleges, but even in elementary school. So these people are promoting all the left agenda, and of course, anti-Semitism is part of the left agenda. It's all well oiled by Qatar and many other endowments, and a lot of cash coming in. So this is why this pro-Palestinian line, which is so anti-human, it's so anti-Western, it's so anti-civilization. It's a shame on European countries who have this agenda. And now United States comes. Oh my God, there are a lot of stupid people in the United States, but I never thought that there are just so many. It's just incredible. But okay, let them enjoy themselves. I just want to tell you that from history, all nations and individuals who were against Jews and harmed Jews and let Jews leave their countries to go somewhere else, they were all punished by history tremendously. You will take a look at Spain, you will take a look at Germany, you will look at many other countries. On the other hand, the Muslim is the most militant, the most aggressive, the religion that ever been invented by the humankind. Remember when they just got their Islam, it was just not even written all. They started immediately expansion to Spain. They got Spain and they tortured Christian and Jewish people and kids and everybody else. They almost ran France. They went to Switzerland. Switzerland was a little bit too cold for them, so they went down to Italy. And then comes the Ottoman Turks, which is another Muslim country, and they tortured all the Balkan states and overrun them. Then they went into other European countries, and they were not 100% successful. And finally, in Vienna, in I believe 1683, they were crushed by United European Army, and that has to be crushed once and for all, because this is the most militant, most aggressive religion, nothing to do with humanity, nothing to do with Western civilization. Has to go. There is no point to bring more and more Muslims and tell how wonderful these people and how these Palestinians are great people and those are great people and so on. Go to Europe. It's impossible to live there anymore. There are 65 million Muslims already. Europe is occupied. That's what Ottoman Turks failed to do 500 years ago. They've done it today without any weapons. I'm done.
I want to, okay, the U.S. is only 0.8% Muslim, so we are not going to run into the same problem.
But they have influence way more than 8%. It's more than 48% or 58%.
I want to bring up something that I've never seen brought up during the current conflict. The Ukraine war is in its second year with no end in sight. The Israel-Gaza thing is in its second month. and Gaza is teeny. It's only 5-6 miles wide by 25 miles long. And what's happening is horrible. That there are lots of innocents getting killed, but it will end soon because the territory is freaking tiny. Israel will establish dominance, and most hostilities will end in at most a month or two, and then everybody, I'm hoping, can calm down.
Hey, Rick, just really quickly, one of the things that people have been talking about, and I've been watching it online, is there is actually a group that differentiates between Judaism and Zionism. And
Lots of people argue for that you
right.
like.
No, there's a group called the Jewish Voice for Peace. It's the largest progressive Jewish anti-Zionist organization in the world. They're actually the ones that have organized some of these protests that you're talking about, and it is definitely one that is apparently on the side of some of the Palestinians and definitely some of humanity and everything. So is there some people that might even be considered on the left side of politics, even from the Jewish community? I would think that this group might be one of those.
There are Netanyahu's approval within the state of Israel is like 18%. People are annoyed with, there's plenty of, there's a huge range of political discourse within Israel and among Jews outside of Israel, that you don't have to support everything Israel does to be a good Jew. And criticizing Israel doesn't necessarily mean you're anti-Semitic, though if you go on Twitter, you can see a bunch of people saying, well, I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm just, saying that, and that they are anti-Semitic. It's a mess, but I'm hoping that 2 months from now, in the new year, that the war will be over, that Gaza will be temporarily occupied, even though Israel says they're not going to occupy it, and that the heated rhetoric will have cooled, and the killing will have largely ended.
Yeah, I hear you. Hey, Adam, just really quickly, I was going to turn it back to you because I've got a question. We're actually going to get off the war for a second. We've only got about another roughly 20 minutes to go. And definitely you can respond, but I was going to ask another question that I said I was going to bring up. But there is a reveal that was given during the last debate, and some people think that is the reason that Tim Scott left the election and everything, because it was revealed that he has a real girlfriend and not a fake girlfriend, and it is a woman that is a mother of three. A white woman that is a mother of three. And some people are wondering if the country is ready for an interracial relationship on the White House or on the national scene, despite the success of the movie Loving and all along those lines. So I was just wondering, was that a final straw among the folks that are very much in the extreme right, that this gentleman is one, single, and two, that he was dating a single mother of three, that might have been one of the reasons that he actually left the race, that being Mr. Scott and everything. So any thoughts around that?
Well, I've got thoughts. Tim Scott was polling at 3%, and I think he just saw no way forward. And there are plenty of black politicians, including conservative politicians, who have white partners. The most prominent is Clarence Thomas, who's married to the freaking whitest lady in the world.
MAGA hat wearer.
So, Mark, unlike my fellow panelists, I'm going to be brief, and I'm not going to engage in personal attacks. Of course, we shouldn't care about an interracial relationship. That's ridiculous. But the problem is not just with Republicans. The problem is with Republicans and Democrats and the lack of leadership in Washington. That's number one. Number two is the problem is with universities and the media that are so uniformly woke and left that you have them preaching to students that whiteness is bad, that they need safe spaces, even in some institutions, segregated spaces along the boundaries of race. And that's just ridiculous. Our universities have become so liberal that our graduates are, and this is the third problem, are becoming really stupid. And stupidity is the biggest threat to this country, along with identity politics and classifying everyone by race or sexual orientation. You claim we have a democracy? We have a society filled with morons. And universities are producing them, and the media is producing so much propaganda that's ridiculous. You think the right to vote should matter? You have morons going to the polls in every election that's leading to the election of people in both parties that fail to lead and fail to put the American people first, and that are in the pockets of lobbyists and that are controlled by people like Nick, who are the wealthiest of the wealthy. That's not democracy. That's not equality. That's not equality of opportunity. And certainly it's prohibited people from having the American dream. So until we get better leaders, universities that are truly diverse in viewpoint, and people who are informed, the future for the United States does not look bright.
Hey, Adam, let me get this right. So I went to Marquette University. I've said it several times on this show and everything. And I remember us having a very active multicultural association and an active Black student union and everything. So if I heard you correctly, those kind of organizations, there was definitely some Indian, both from India as well as Native American organizations as well. So if I heard you correctly, those types of organizations would not need to exist on the campuses and all along those lines, because it sounds
that
like
is a total mischaracterization of what I said. Those organizations are essential on college campuses. Diversity is important, but what's more important is civil disagreement, respect for alternative views, and accommodation of different viewpoints so that students can hear different perspectives and engage in the marketplace of ideas the First Amendment in this country was designed to uphold.
Now, I'm going to get to Rick, but I definitely agree with you, because one of the greatest things that I had was a theology course when I was there, because that was almost like a required minor. If you go to a Jesuit university, you wind up having theology and philosophy as a minor to some degree as well, because it's the nature of the college. And one of my best two professors, one was very conservative and one was very liberal. So I actually enjoyed the fact that I got those different kind of viewpoints.
Exactly.
And I got two great professors that were on opposite ends of the extreme and all along those lines. But it was something I enjoyed.
Right. So there have always been lunatics, and the right now the craziest voices are the loudest, and you get fooled into thinking that they represent these significant chunks of the population. Social media has given everybody a megaphone, along with biased. Like, you can choose your 24-hour news. You can go with One American News Network. You can go with Fox on one side. You can go with MSNBC on the other side. And you have these divisive voices, loud voices, and most people are just minding their business. Most people are not anti-Semitic or anti-Arab, anti-Muslim. They're just going about their business. Most Muslims, there are about 1.6 billion Muslims in the world. And most Muslims, most Catholics, most Christians, most Jews aren't interested in being politically active. They want to go about their lives. They want to they want to have relationships. They want to succeed in business. They want to, at the end of the day, sit down and watch TV. It's just that lunatics have the podium.
But along those same lines, and definitely other people have comments that they want to make as well, but along those same lines, there is a lot of division. And actually, Kim actually alluded to it, because if you think of the Muslim population, it is not monolithic. No population is monolithic. There is definitely a lot of differences. There's the difference, as Kim just alluded to, between the Shiites and the Sunnis. As y'all know, I get around by mass transit, and I just actually saw a associate of mine that I see quite often on the bus. He was a friend of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and he is a member of the American Muslim community. So they are actually divided as well, because there are those that follow Louis Farrakhan and those that follow W. Dean Muhammad, if I'm remembering the person that is the head of the other side other than Farrakhan, and all along those lines. But it's definitely a lot of division even within the Islamic community as well. But that's just something I wanted to point out. So if you're going to study these religions, study the various aspects of them, because they are not monolithic whatsoever. But Jim, your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I just had just came from a dinner, an engagement party dinner for my best friend and his bride to be. And there were 6 of us at the table. 4 of them were Jews, and 5 of them went to Stanford. I went to UMass. I graduated 3 years, but I went to UMass, and man, there was a real diversity on that campus. And I loved my college experience, and the professors were very, very inspirational in many ways, and they had a wide variety of viewpoints. And yeah, you could find basically anything you wanted to find. And I found that in certain courses that I took. I took a very electric course. Courses, economics to history to whatever. But in any case, certain professors were very clearly liberal and certain professors very clearly were conservative. So there's not this uniformity that I want to make sure that everyone understands that. And I think that goes for all the campuses that I've ever talked to anybody that attended a campus. You can find.
What year did you graduate UMass?
I graduated. I entered in 75, graduated in 78.
I think it's different now.
It might be different now. I can't speak to that. I can only speak to my experience and to the experience of the people that I talk to. And I think that the uniformity of thought that is being portrayed here is non-existent. Because I still think that you go to economics and you're going to find a wide variety of professors that don't like each other. So, it depends on what department you're in often. Math, sciences, they're different from the liberal arts parts of the colleges. So painting everybody with a wide brush just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Also, like, there are plenty of controversies within each discipline. Like, what's the true meaning of quantum mechanics in the physics department? What's the best way to teach reading in the education department? This insistence on the whole campus is woke versus not woke is like, that's not what people want to talk about all the frickin' time.
Yeah, well, I work in academia, and I've worked in academia for the last 12 years. And I can tell you that on many campuses, there is blatant discrimination against applicants who are conservative. In the humanities and social sciences, they are overwhelmingly liberal, and they bring that perspective into their classroom and, in fact, don't welcome alternative views. I have seen it firsthand and heard it from my colleagues at numerous universities. We talk about diversity.
Wide brush.
Diversity isn't based on the color of your skin, whether you're transgender, whether you're gay, whether you're male or female. It's about a diverse exchange of ideas from different perspectives that allows students to develop informed opinions and to learn how to think, not what to think. And what we're doing with this wokeism that's pervading universities is depriving students of that experience. And we should realize it's about the students, not the teachers and their ideology.
I agree with that.
And I agree with Adam. I've sat on the board of universities for a couple of years, and I think that in many cases there can be a means of control that shouldn't be there. And I believe that there is some prejudice, and they need to spend more time helping the students learn to think for themselves instead of teaching them how they want them to think. I agree with you, Adam. I agree with that.
I would also say that starts in elementary school. That's part of our education process right from the beginning. We don't teach people to think.
It would be nice, Jim, to change that. And I've sat on boards for years there, but that's a tough one. And the ratio of teacher to student just doesn't allow that kind
California just added media awareness to the curriculum. I'm not overly informed on it, but Newsom just signed a law that means that people need to need to be taught critical thinking and learn how to analyze media and I had this as a kid growing up. We were taught the 7 ways that advertising can influence you. And, I read Mad Magazine, which made fun of advertising and everything else. So I already knew the ways, but it's a great thing to have as part of an education is learning how to analyze what's being thrown at you and having reasonable skepticism. But one more thing is that at different times in history, the temperature across America and on campus. I grew up, I was a little kid in Boulder, Colorado, a huge hippie city in the 60s and 70s. The temperature was high. There were riots, a bunch of windows got broken, the freeway got shut down by protesters, and we're back kind of in that period again. And I look forward to a time when the temperature goes down and people can have diversities of opinions without being so pissed all the time.
I
Yes,
don't think
and
that's
remember,
gonna happen.
let's not forget the parents. There are so many horrible parents out there who they decide to have children, but don't know how to parent them, and then academics are saddled with dealing with these entitled, lazy morons.
I want to add to
Adam,
that,
you just lost the
Adam.
moron vote
I want
and
to
the parent
correct
vote.
you.
Adam, I was never in your class. I'm sorry.
I want to
Well,
correct
true.
him just a little bit. There are a lot of children out there today who were not wanted by their mom or dad, and now they're being forced to have these children. So guess what? It's going to get worse, Adam, because you've got a lot of mamas right now who have been forced
Well,
due
China
to the
has a two-parent-
anti-abortion laws. So I'm just saying it's not going to get that is not going to get any better.
Parents are different. Parenting wasn't even in our vocabulary until the 80s. In the 70s, in the 60s, before that, you just sent your kids to school, and what happened to them happened, and you trusted everything would turn out fine. Sometimes it did, most of the time. Now parents are very involved, very focused, and always will, helicopter parents, always ready to come to the defense of their kids, to believe the kid over the school. My wife has worked in a couple schools for years, and yeah, parents are different, for good and for ill.
And single parent families have proliferated and done great damage to kids, particularly in the African American community, and it's a tragedy. Two parent families are the exception now, not the rule, and that's a problem.
So
Well, you're forcing it with all the anti-abortion laws because majority of the time it's up to the mother to raise the child.
So
Not her fault.
So it's
Not her
the
fault.
problem with a single parent family is it takes an organized two-parent family to glom on to the educational resources available. If you're a single parent working 2 or 3 jobs, you don't know how to game the educational system, which has limited resources, to grab the resources for yourself. When, my wife and I are married, we have 1 kid, and as our kid went through elementary school, my wife could spend many, many hours researching how to get the resources out of the LA public schools, which is a semi-broke system that doesn't have enough for every kid. And so, yeah, it's the organized families that can grab. And when you get to college admission, it takes a whole family. College admission is so crazy now that it takes 2 parents to get in there and figure out and to pay for the consultants. And yeah, you're right. But it's not all on the parents. It's on the educational systems that force people to devote all these resources to it.
Well, and I agree. I think that there's just way too much control by too many people wanting to make changes that need to be made. Changes don't need to be made. I think banning of books is wrong, and we've got a lot of people out there controlling the book systems, and we've got just so much things going on. The children don't get a chance to learn anymore. And I mean, right now I'm, very big supporter of an elementary school that is of extreme poverty in our state. And, I've listened to one of the teachers there a lot. And the biggest problem is that the children don't get enough food to eat, and so they can't think. So, we're trying to help and make that a solution. But you have children that are in a school that have far more bigger problems than learning, and nobody cares. Nobody cares. And that is our problem in our society. And what we do is we get caught up in all of this white noise and smoke screen of all these other wars and other problems. And granted, yeah, you know what? We need to control some of that so it doesn't impact us. But at the end of the day, we need to fix ourselves within, because I think one of you guys said we're going to explode from within. And we're working on that very big right now. We're already divided by 2 parties. And guess what? Now we're dividing by two different country wars because everybody's picking a side. God knows how many different sides we're on right now. It
Yeah,
is.
there's all kinds of sides, and like you said, there's all kinds of conversations even around aid that is coming to some of the countries, both foreign as well as some of the aid within our own country. And I agree with something that Adam said, because definitely we need to have more folks that are doing the basic reading, no matter what they're reading. As I've said on this show before, as a growing up as a youngster, I used to love Curious George, and I wish that more people would read the Curious George. And all along those lines, it was a
Mouse
great,
and the Motorcycle.
yes, another good one.
Dr. Seuss.
It's
It
Little
taught
nuts.
House on the
it's a
Prairie.
great book to teach kids who have trouble speaking. Actually, I would read that book before I had a big speech to go do, just so I would learn not to get tongue tied. So, Dr. Seuss is a great book, and we banned half of those. So,
Yeah, we banned a lot of that. No, we get ready to wind down. Did you have something you wanted to say, Rick?
But you know what, everyone, this has been great. We're at the top of the hour. And I hope everyone comes back Thursday. I will be gone at a wedding, but hopefully everyone else will continue and somebody will speak up my part of the story. No, I'm just kidding. I think crazy. But anyway, thank you everyone for joining us. And don't forget, that there are 2 to 3 sides to every story and battle and war that goes on. Try to learn more about all the other sides before you make a judgment. And
And learn
everyone
to change
have a
your
great
mind.
day. Take care.
You told me popped in at the end.
Bye, Jacoby.
Bye.